What's up guys, this is Coach Donny from Elevate Yourself. In this video, we'll be analyzing Yuji Nishida's workout routine and learn why he is one of the most explosive athletes in the world and has an incredible vertical jump and powerful arm swing. Whoops, I should have done that with my left arm, powerful arm swing because he's left-handed. If you're new to this channel, I'm a volleyball coach, volleyball player, and personal trainer who creates volleyball tutorials and jump training content to inspire and educate volleyball players around the world. Make sure you watch my other video about Yuji Nishida linked below, where I analyze his volleyball technique and strategy and explain why he is also an amazing player on the volleyball court. So I like how he's entering the video and he's responding to his fan request about doing a video explaining his weight training routine. And I'll link his original video in the description box so you can watch the whole thing yourself and listen to him talk. He seems like a pretty nice guy. Let's skip forward to the workout. So it looks like he's warming up with a deadlift, and there's different types of deadlifts. There's conventional and Romanian, but it looks like he's doing conventional deadlifts. So let's look at his form and see why the deadlift is helpful for your vertical jump. So a pretty good form so far. All right, so see how when he's lowering the bar, he's shifting his hips back. So this is a hip dominant movement. Now when you're jumping up or sprinting forward, there's 4 muscle groups that are really important for that in terms of generating most of the raw power. The hips, or the hip structure, is comprised of your glute muscles, which is your butt muscles that help your hip extend. It also involves your lower back muscles that helps your lower back extend along with your hips. And also this loads the hamstring. Now the hamstring has multiple functions. It helps assist in hip extension, but also helps load the knee extension by helping bring your heel to your butt. And we'll talk about why this is important later. So great range of motion, good mobility, and you see how his back is straight as he's doing this. Now his knees are bent a little bit, which is normal for a conventional deadlift, so there is some quad engagement, but this is strictly glute, hamstring, and lower back exercise. Now, I like that his warm-up is already 225 pounds. That's pretty heavy. And also he's lifting with pretty good speed. He's kind of doing a touch and go, so it does bounce off the floor, so it comes off a little bit faster, but he is lifting not super slow and heavy, but with pretty good speed. But like I said, this is just a warm-up, so maybe, okay, so he's going to be loading the weight a little bit more. So still pretty good speed here, and his feet are shoulder width apart. Now the width of your deadlift stance could vary from person to person. So I also noticed he talked about not rounding your back in this exercise for safety, which is a good tip. So it looks like he didn't go super heavy, and I think that's the key for vertical jump is, yes, you want to get stronger, you do want to increase your maximum strength, but most of your workouts should be stimulating but lifting with high speed. Okay, so front squat here. Looks like he's going into his warm-up set still because he's only doing 135. Okay, so he does eventually put on another plate on there, making it 225. So now we'll analyze benefits of the front squat. So he gets in position, he gets the middle of his feet directly under the bar. A lot of people try to lean forward to lift it with their back, but you want to lift it with your legs first. He gets his elbows forward, and looks like he has restricted wrist mobility, so he can only do like a T-Rex grip versus all hands, which is pretty normal. His hands could probably be a little further apart. That would help him get his elbows up more. And his stance is a little bit wide, shoulder width. Probably recommend a little bit narrower stance and turn those feet out by 15 degrees. All right, now he's descending. Now you notice the difference between this compared to the deadlift. So his knees are bent forward and his back is upright. And the main focus of the front squat is to load the quadriceps. So it's not a lot of hip engagement. You will get some glute engagement towards the bottom because you're stretching the glute and hamstring, upper hamstring muscles so much. But the point is to develop knee extension. And so it's normal for your knees to go completely beyond your feet. And that's actually good for that lower quadriceps, specifically the vastus medialis, which is the teardrop muscle on your quadricep. And if you notice from all jumping and sprinting, extending the knee is really important. So getting that strong quadricep development is very important. But look at that musculature in that upper back. So that's one thing I love about the front squat is not only does it build the quadricep muscles, but it also helps develop thoracic extension, which is your upper spine, and help because you have to stay upright, especially when he's carrying such heavy weight here. Now he's not going all the way down, and maybe that could be because I think he mentioned about recovering from a lower back injury, but as you get more advanced, you do want to get a little bit lower as you're developing strength and building muscle tissue tolerance. And if you have trouble getting low with your butt below your knees, you can put small weight plates under your heels. That helps with some of the ankle mobility restrictions. Some more front squats. Let's see how many reps he does. Yeah, and he also says it's great for the core. It is. You have to keep any heavy compound lift is going to be really great for your core. And I'm curious what he says for his reasoning. The thighs of my legs. And he says recommends always that your back has to be in a straight line too. So he's giving great advice, lifting tips for those who are interested in his workouts. All right, we got some upper body, so shoulder press, so seated shoulder press. Now we'll talk about the difference between the seated shoulder press and a standing shoulder press. So why would someone do a seated version versus a standing version? A standing version, you have to work on engaging your core a little bit more, and it's a great way to build balance as you're lifting over your head. So in that respect, it's a little bit quote unquote more sport specific, because when you're playing sports, you're always having to use your feet and core to balance everything. It also helps you get further back because you can kind of extend your hips forward to counterbalance. So that's one benefit. The drawback is you can't go super heavy, or if you have lower back problems like Yuji and Nishida might have in this video, it is restricting and you might not want to take that risk. So my guess is that he's doing the seated version to not overwork his lower back, especially if he's doing a lower and upper body workout in one session. So this is a great way to compensate for some of those. And also when you're doing a seated version of the shoulder press, you can lift heavier because when you're sitting, you're taking away the stabilizing component. So your core and legs don't have to work on balancing your body as you're lifting. All right, so he's not going full range of motion, he's kind of going down. Looks like he's just trying to load pretty heavy. I can't help but analyze his form as well. So he's having his elbows to the side. Now, if you're really trying to develop shoulder mobility, like if that's your main function, it's okay to have your shoulders out. But when you're going pretty heavy, this is not the best position for the shoulder. If you want to do your own shoulder press, I recommend actually having your elbows more in front, because that's just the natural path of how your shoulder girdle is made with your collarbone and your scapula, which is your shoulder blade muscle. So as I'm going down, you want to go slightly in front to load the anterior head of the deltoid and upper pec, but also not compromise, not get the head of the humerus internally rotating. And then you can go up and behind your head here. But for him, he's not going all the way down, so it's okay for him to keep his elbows out. And he's got a nice stable stance with his feet, so he doesn't have to shake around too much here. Ooh, so he's giving great advice. He's saying don't lift your hips off the bench, and I think I read before you want to flare your chest out. So that's really important. You do want a scapular retraction where your shoulder blades are pinched together at the back. That's actually really good for developing that posture when you're lifting here. Now we can talk about why the shoulder press is actually good for strength and why it helps Yuji Nishida here. So if you look at Yuji Nishida's body, he's pretty built. He's an athletic guy, he's got some meat. He's also an undersized hitter. I think he's only around 6 feet, 6'1", and pretty successful internationally. So he has to compensate with his lack of height, with being more explosive, jumping higher, faster. He has to beat the taller opponents in other ways. And the fact that he's not afraid to load the weight and lift heavy makes a lot of sense, because you do need to lift heavy to develop greater power potential. And he's really hitting these compound lifts hard. Looks like some pretty heavy dumbbells, maybe 50, 60 pounders, and he's just knocking them out. Now, how do your shoulders help for a vertical jump? Remember, when you're jumping, 10 to 20% of your vertical jump is actually in your arms, your lift. So your ability to load your posterior delt and then your anterior and medial delt to lift your arm up and also to pull your elbow back. Part of that has to do with your shoulders there. So just having a strong shoulder, the function of your deltoid is to raise my arm above my shoulders. That's the main function. If you want to increase your vertical jump and take your volleyball performance to the next level, then use my jump training programs, which include a bodyweight only version and programs that use standard gym equipment and come with a mobile training app. Get 5% off with the discount code and link in the description box and start jumping higher today. So it looks like we got single leg dumbbell squat. I'm curious if he's doing this in a specific order, because this is a very interesting order of workouts to go from lower body, upper body, and back to lower body. All right, he's referring to what his trainer taught him. I'm curious what the speed is. 30 kilograms, that's pretty heavy. For the American fans, it's like 75, 80 pounds. Oh, this is a fantastic exercise. Man, look at that quadricep development, look at that balance, look at that control. So he's doing a front-loaded single leg, we call it negative box squat. Negative because you're going into the ground with your opposite leg. And the benefit of holding the dumbbell in front instead of just holding a barbell behind is that you get to load your quadricep a little bit more and continue to work on that thoracic extension. So it's going to be a little bit more intense on your spine in a good way. Whereas if you hold the barbell on your back, you're going to be a little bit more hip loaded and you're not engaging your core nearly as much as trying to balance a weight in front. And I love the speed here. He's going down slowly and you see how his knee is forward, and you want to make sure that your knee goes past your toes. That helps you not just use more quadriceps, but it also helps stimulate the patellar tendon. So your quadricep muscles, they all come together to form the patellar tendon, and that's where a lot of our jumper's knee comes from, like that sharp pain in front of your knee from jumping and landing all the time. And this is such a good way to load the patellar tendon. And I like the speed he's going at. So he's going down 2 or 3 seconds and then he's trying to stand up quickly. So that's really great for injury prevention, but power development. Now his hips are a little bit further back, so he is using some hip and some knee. So it's not like a true front squat where it's almost entirely knee dominant. It is hip and knee in this one. I was talking about the psoas muscle, which is the muscle that goes from your inner, like kind of your groin area. You do work out a little bit of that, especially, I mean, at the bottom, you're loading the psoas and then you're extending it, like your hip flexor, and also balance too. Is he checking himself out here, looking at his quad? Okay, switching legs. I thought he was turning to the side, looking at his mirror. Man, he's going straight into the other leg, no rest. Looks like his right knee is a little bit more shaky than his left knee. So another reason why we want to work out both sides and do single leg exercises to make sure we correct any muscular imbalances. And you see how he's going at the bottom? I like that he's touching the floor with his heel. If you touch it with the ball of your foot or your toe, is a high chance you could end up cheating, meaning pushing off with the leg on the bottom. But when you're doing this exercise, you want to use the heel so you can't push off of your heel. So you're forced to use the leg on the box, which is what you want to do. And I love his shoes. I just noticed he is using the Asics, I think, Sky Elite MFTs. Those are one of my favorite volleyball shoes. Unfortunately, they started hurting my toes because I have really wide feet. But if you don't have wide feet, those are really, really good shoes. Some of the best tractions and support I've ever experienced in a shoe here. Now we'll talk about the height here. He says his platform of 40 centimeters so that his knee's 90 degrees off the ground. Now, why would someone go 90 degrees off the ground versus just a high squat? Some people have a theory about going below 90 degrees is not harmful. Actually, let's see if he explains why he keeps it at 90 degrees. Or maybe he's just talking about the angle that you should be aiming for. Okay, now he's talking about his heel touching the ground. As soon as he touches it, it's a touch and go. He's gonna extend his knee and hip right away. He's going a little faster at the end because he's probably getting more fatigued. Okay, so we'll talk about why 90 degrees, some benefits and some drawbacks. So 90 degrees is not going to be the angle that you're going to be jumping from. When you're playing volleyball, you're rarely going to be loading that deep to get off the ground, because if you get too low, you're losing speed. When you lose speed, you're not going to jump as high. So why is 90 degrees beneficial? Deeper ranges of motion help develop denser, better quality of your patellar tendon, or just any tendon in general. Anytime you stress the tendon at its end range, especially at a slower speed with some good weight, that's a great way to help strengthen your tendons here and also strengthen and develop more muscle tissue. You might be able to lift more weight at a partial range of motion, but you're not developing the entire muscle length. And when you can get to that deeper range of motion to 90 degrees, then you can really develop the distal and proximal ends of the hamstring, for example, in this one because he's going deep, but also the quadriceps. Now, could he go deeper? Yes, if he's really working on like the early stages of athletic development, when he's going hardcore injury prevention and setting the foundation, you do want to go as low as you can to develop better mobility, even better tendon quality, but also you get to stimulate more muscle tissue the longer range of motion you go. and you strengthen the muscle at different angles, which is really important. All right, now we got some chin-ups. Okay, so looks like he is alternating back and forth between lower body and upper body. That's an interesting sequence. Weighted pull-ups. Man, he has got a 45-pound plate and he's going all the way up. He's doing a little bit of a kipping with his legs, which means he's getting a little bit of assistance, which is fine. That means he's trying to be explosive. So it looks like he is trying to pull a little bit faster. Dang, did he just say this is too light for him? All right, let's talk about, man, look at those lat muscles coming out under his armpits already as he is doing his pull-up. This guy is muscular. You can see his calf and like hamstring and quad development here. So one thing is doing really well is that full range of motion, and that's so good for your shoulders. And a lot of times when hitters, when they spike, we're so used to bringing our elbow down and then we're on our phones and on our computer. So this muscle here gets really tight. And so getting that full range of motion is a great way to stretch it. And when you stretch something under load, it helps your body retain that position a little bit better versus just stretching with body weight. And one thing I love that he's doing is that he's going up, his elbows are going in front and to the side. We talked about how that's the natural range of the shoulder as you're bringing it down and forward versus trying to go back and behind him here. So working out that lat muscle, and he's blinking in slow motion here because I left it on slow motion. Okay, so he's giving some good feedback. He's trying to get his chest to the bar, so that helps you really work on getting your elbows back and fully contracting your rhomboids, your lats, and even kind of your upper lower back muscles. So he's got great technique here for doing his pull-ups. Now, how does your back muscles help with volleyball? Well, this most simple way is your loading. Anytime you bring your arm behind your shoulder, you're most likely using your posterior deltoid, which is behind your shoulder, your lat muscle, which helps bring your arm back and down, so on the backswing of your jump. But also, anytime you want to be strong forward, you have to be just as strong backwards to protect your shoulder here. So just another great overall upper body movement to make you more explosive, hit harder, jump higher. So it looks like this is the end of his workout. I remember reading into the subtitles that he is recovering from injury, and I think this was during the depths of coronavirus, so he wasn't able to play a lot of volleyball, probably just had time to just work out at the gym on his own. And he's doing a great job of just maintaining and developing his strength, because when you don't get to jump a lot, you want to make sure that your body can withstand the force of jumping and landing multiple times on the volleyball court by keeping your muscles strong with a good full range of motion for a lot of his exercises. And notice that a lot of his movements, he did both the anterior and posterior chains of his body, which means he's working the muscles in front and behind him. A lot of times when we work out, we mainly focus on doing the muscles that are in front, like our biceps, our abs, our chest, but a lot of our injuries don't truly happen from overuse. They happen from imbalanced musculature and strength. So when he's doing his shoulders, he's doing his back. When he's doing his hips, he's also doing his quads. So a really great strength routine that you could take from Yuji Nishida. And also he's lifting heavy but with pretty good speed. Notice that it takes him around 1 to 2 seconds to stand up, sometimes even faster if he's being really explosive. So he's not going so heavy that he's shaking violently, but it's just enough to stimulate the muscle. The rep range seems to be around 6 to 10 reps, which is great, compared to powerlifting, where they're not concerned about vertical jump, they're just concerned about strength. Powerlifters usually are going to load the barbell really heavy and take around 3 to 4 seconds, which is great for building maximum strength, but actually not for being explosive, because you do need to lift it with some speed. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting this channel by leaving a super thanks comment below, purchasing some Elevate apparel like this Elevate hoodie and Elevate vertical tee, or signing up for my Patreon linked below, where you receive exclusive content like early access to my videos, behind the scenes footage, and my private blog, and more. Let me know in the comments what you think about Yuji Nishida's workout routine.